All right, so here we are with our elevation and balance. Week 2, the horizontal mazes looked great. And I know that in a lot of cases, you know, the idea of a maze is to create not a chute for the dog. And that can be tricky to imagine, but like a series of forks in the road, if that makes sense, where they kind of have to decide how they're going to go about getting there. Unless in some cases they just choose to go over, in which case, fine, that is also a valid choice. What we're looking for here is just to give them the exposure of that fragmented odor cone that often comes down when we talk about elevation. When things are on the flat, and the majority of the dog's experience is that they can catch the odor and they can follow it more or less to a zone of productivity, right? At a distance, they can do that. With elevation, they can't do that. They're kind of forced to solve the problem at a distance, right? So that was the goal here, is just to give them some experience of working through some, let me see. I want to share. This is this is an example from our maze this week.
Ready?
And what I liked about this one is it really took the environment that she already had into consideration. So like right here, you have this tool bench kind of thing here. This is something that you might run into in a realistic sort of setup. And just incorporating it, creating a couple more blockades to where the dog would easily find his way to the other side, creating that fragmented odor cone. And letting him find the opening or the access point to where he needs to get to solve the problem.
Right, good job, buddy,
really
man.
Complex,
nice work. Oh, boy.
Complex problem solving here. On the flip side, we have some innovation. Just go over it. But look at how she's working still the fragmented odor cone. Now the odor is close to the videographer, the hide, with a fan of sorts moving it. I think there's a fan moving it toward the far side. Then we have a bit of trapping and collection here on the chairs. That's right where her tail is, kind of right behind her. I was giggling at the puppy trying to make a breakout over here in the corner. I was like, that gate's not going to keep him up there for long.
Oh, there it is.
Right. So two very different types of mazes, both both work just wonderfully to get the point across. Okay. Questions about last week? This is one of the exercises that I do to help me balance when I am working elevation, is just maze work, setting up mazes in a variety of different types of ways and letting the dog just freely experience how to solve that problem. Elizabeth, did you have a question?
I do. I have the poodle, Riot, and I think your loom cut out in the middle because you were kind of mid-sentence and then it just stopped.
Oh no.
So, yeah, so I don't think I got everything, and I wasn't really sure what my next steps would be or how I could set it up better, because you said it would have been good to have a fan blowing, but I did have a fan blowing.
You did
So
have it. Where was the fan? It was hard for me to see because there's optical illusions that happen sometimes in videos. So it's hard for me to tell exactly
yeah.
what things were.
So as you're looking at the video, it's on your left and it was blowing it was blowing towards the stool and then blowing the odor away from the camera at an angle.
Was
And
there, so a couple of things might have been happening. The fan may have been too powerful for that space. So because what he was doing is he was working behind. So sometimes what happens in interior spaces is when we're using fans is the fan can push the odor into the wall, the opposite wall. It curls up the wall and ends up hitting and dropping kind of like where the fan is located. Does that make sense?
yes.
So some of that might have been happening. It was hard for me to tell, and not seeing the fan, that probably affected the way I was reading it. So either was there a garage door?
Yeah. A big one.
Yeah, I might open the garage door if I could and duplicate that same thing just so I didn't have that kickback.
Okay.
You could try it without the fan too. Was the fan on the same level as the stool?
No, it was on the ground. It was one of those little Ryobi fans on the ground.
So I might you want it to be at the same level.
Okay.
So if the height is low, the fan can be low, but if the height is elevated a little bit, keep the fan on that same spectrum.
Okay. And so should I be doing this again?
You can, yeah, if you have the patience to set up another maze for yourself. I think Ellen said it took her 20 minutes to set up the maze and 12 seconds for the dog to run it.
That's what I did. Yeah, and you know, I'm in this little cottage with limited space and limited stuff.
You did great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was hard to figure out, and I'm three-dimensionally challenged, so I should have made some turns. And I realized after when I looked at it, the video, it was like a shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not my intention, but that's what happened.
All right. So moving on, let's tackle some height this week. So what we want to do is create a hide that is still accessible by the dog. So we can do this in a couple of different ways. I can set up a hide picture that has some way for the dog to elevate himself. I call these vertical mazes. So if we take the horizontal maze idea and we flip it upright, we want the dog to figure out how to access something that is up. So when I'm at the farm and I'm playing around with these, we have a variety of and it depends on the size of your dog too. The hide itself doesn't have to be very high, depending on the size of your dog. It needs to be high enough so that the dog feels that they're working elevation, but not so high that he can't safely get to it in some capacity. If I have a big dog and I have, I don't know, like a picnic pavilion or something, I can put an elevated hide on one of the posts and then they can climb on the picnic table to access the hide itself. Access is important. It's one of the things that makes elevation confusing to the dogs, is because they can never ultimately access it. So we want to make sure that they can find the total solution to the problem. You could use, fitness equipment. You could use climbs, and you could stack, if you have lots of climbs, you could stack climbs on each other and do it that way. You could put a climb to we have mounting blocks and things at the farm that we can kind of pull over and use. If you have, if your dog is easy to get up on the couch or on the sofa, and you can put it on the back wall next to the, like behind the sofa, you could do something like that. If your dog is easy to get on the bed, or maybe you have steps or something, some way for her to access it, you could put it kind of up on the wall behind the bed. We're pushing here. but not so much that they can't do it. They've got to be able to have success. That's where you knowing your dog comes into play. Be conservative to start, especially if this is a newer idea. We want the dog to figure out where they want to go and then figure out an avenue to get there. Just like your mazes. I know I want to get over there. Now, what is my avenue to get there? Left turn, right turn, over the thing, under the thing, whatever the case may be. I want to get there. How do I do that? Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be 12 feet high. It could be 5 feet high. Maybe Finn. Most of your dogs on their hind legs can't reach 5 feet. They're going to need to get a little alley-oop somewhere from something.
He can do 5'4".
He could do 5. I was like, okay, maybe Finn could reach 5 feet.
And if he jumps, 5'8".
Cricket can reach more than 5 feet.
If she jumps.
She yeah, she
Yeah.
stands way tall.
Yeah. So it does the ultimate height is not the thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at the dog realizing where he wants to go and then figuring out an avenue to get there.
Okay. I'm looking around.
So I feel like this is kind of where Swagger is stuck. Like he's really good to this point. Like he will love to climb on things. He'll climb on something just to win something across the way. But and that's great if he can physically get to it, but he loses a little bit of mojo when he can't.
We'll get there.
Okay.
It's only week 2.
I know, but like this is the spot where he loves this. And then when I take the things he can climb away, he's like, what the shit?
Yeah, great. Let me see this part first.
Okay. So if you do it like above a sofa, is the fabric, does that make it more complicated?
Yep, it can.
So maybe not start there.
Yeah, I mean, unless your dog's seen that type of picture before. Same with the bed. Like the fabric is going to absorb the odor. If you're a pairer, this is a great one to pair. This is one of my cat food pairing exercises because my dogs love it. And I can put their little cup of whatever up on whatever I'm doing, and then they work their way to get their prize. Okay. All right, everybody. I look forward to the videos. No class next week. I have to go to Tennessee to teach some dogs. So 2 weeks to do this. Okay.
Isn't Tennessee that week after that? Because we're going.
Oh, did I get the dates wrong? Hold on.
It's
Stand
the
by.
20th or 21st.
Yes, you're right. It's the 20th that we're gone. Yes, so we have class next week, but not the week after that. Thank you, Melissa. I would have been sending out a Mayday, Mayday. I
No
screwed up my date.
class. January 20th.
Yes, we have no class January 20th,
Okay.
which is in 2 weeks. So we do have class next week. So you only have 1 week to do this one. All right, everybody. I will see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.